Hey, want to hear a story? So, Baldur's Gate 3 by Larian Studios is, safe to say, probably the most successful thing to come out of Dungeons & Dragons in recent years. It is hailed as one of, if not the greatest video games of all time, and for good reason. Baldur's Gate 3 is incredible and has spawned a massive community around it. And it is inevitable that when you have a massive community, that community starts making fan works, stuff like fan art and fan-made mods, both for Baldur's Gate 3 and even for other games outside of Baldur's Gate 3. Enter Baldur's Village, a mod for Stardew Valley. When I first saw this thing, I gotta say, I was impressed. Baldur's Village, it goes above and beyond. You've got tons of new characters, all taken from Baldur's Gate 3, entire new locations and stories. It's impressive, and they're even planning on expanding it with more stories and more characters from the original game that you can experience inside of Stardew Valley. Very, very impressive. There's a good reason why Sven Vick, the CEO of Larian Studios himself, even gave this thing his seal of approval. It is a cool project. So obviously it was very, very, very concerning when Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast decided to strike it with a DMCA takedown request, meaning that the mod was effectively put on ice, taken off the Nexus where none could access it. And that really sucked. It spawned a firestorm on Reddit and Twitter and brought up questions that are quite familiar to those who are fans of Dungeons & Dragons and Baldur's Gate 3. You see, there has been this weird, almost icy relationship between Larian Studios and Wizards of the Coast ever since Larian announced that they had no plans to continue with D&D as a license and would not be working on Baldur's Gate 4 or any DLC for Baldur's Gate 3. It has resulted in a lot of people seeing some kind of beef between the companies, and with them taking decidedly opposite stances on this little situation, it only fueled those rumors more. So, today, we are going to be looking at the Stardew Valley situation. We're going to be looking at Larian and Wizards of the Coast. We're going to be looking at this beef to see if there's anything there. And hopefully at the end, we'll learn a thing or two about Larian, Wizards of the Coast, and the future of both D&D and Baldur's Gate 3. Without further ado, y'all, what the hell happened? Yeah, but before we get started properly, you know what we gotta do? Today's sponsor! Ow. This video is sponsored by RAYCON, your perfect premium audio partner. Whether you're heading out to the gym or work or taking a phone call, RAYCON is there for you. RAYCON were the first wireless earbuds I ever got, and when my dad asked for a pair of earbuds, I immediately bought them for him too, and he loves them. Who cares about the other stuff in this ad? These earbuds are dad approved. They come with active noise cancellation, allowing you to focus on whatever sweet tunes you're listening to. They fit snugly in your ear, so you don't have to worry about the darn things falling out when you're going on a run. And best of all, their price is not extortionate. Seriously, we live in a world where new tech thinks it's okay to charge you an arm and a leg, but RAYCON are reasonably priced and come with a 30-day happiness guarantee with free returns if for some reason you don't like the product. There is no losing with RAYCON. If you guys are interested, then you can head down into the description down below or to the pinned comment, or you can buy RAYCON. And with my link and code, you get 20% off site-wide. Thank you so much to RAYCON for sponsoring today's video. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. And without further ado, I'm gonna get back to the tea. Okay, so some context here. For those who aren't in the modding community, you might be wondering, how normal is it for a company to strike down a fan-made mod like this? Well, the answer is usually companies don't do this, but the usually in that sentence is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Look, at a baseline, fan art and fan-made work, it's illegal. It's just illegal. If you use a trademark or an established piece of intellectual property, what you are doing is not legal, and they have the ability to take down your work from the public eye. However, fan art and fan works are protected by a very powerful legal principle. The legal principle of no one cares. It's seriously a really powerful thing. Look, a lot of brands out there, from Disney to Warner Brothers, they're not taking down every piece of fan art on the internet because why would they? For starters, it's a pain in the ass. It will create a PR nightmare for them. And also, on top of that, they're just removing free advertising vectors. When people create fan works, it builds up the community of the game. And destroying all of that goodwill, eliminating that community, and therefore eliminating that advertising, it is not within the best interest of basically any company. Now, the reason why I said the usually is doing heavy lifting is because if you start profiting off the fan work or fan content, okay, now there are some questions being raised. The they don't care policy is a lot weaker when money enters into the equation. There are some Minecraft mods that tried to monetize that got the boot very, very heavily. But as long as no one's making any cash, Minecraft is free to have fan-made Jurassic Park mods, and Skyrim is free to have fan-made Game of Thrones mods. So, was Baldur's Village a monetized mod? Is that the reason for the takedown request? Well, no. It wasn't monetized at all. It was a simple piece of free fan work, a passion project. And therefore, it's not really normal for a company to let out a takedown request over this mod. To make things clear, yes, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, they absolutely have the legal right to do this. That's the purpose of that whole spiel. I saw a lot of misinformation about this being an illegal takedown notice, and look, that's just not true. They're allowed to do this, but it is considered a real dick move, and something that most companies don't do because it's free advertising. Why would you get rid of that? And I'm not the only one saying this. Sven Vick, remember that guy? The CEO of Larian Studios? He didn't just endorse the mod earlier, he actually spoke out again about this situation. Free quality fan mods highlighting your characters in other game genres are proof your work resonates and a unique form of word of mouth. They shouldn't be treated like commercial ventures that infringe upon your property. Protecting your IP can be tricky, but I do hope this gets settled. There are good ways of dealing with this. And yeah, I could not agree more. And his words only inflamed the community further. People on r/D&D, people on r/BG3, they were freaking out over this, and for good reason. It sucks when fan-made passion projects get taken down for seemingly no reason, to the detriment of basically everybody. And I was honestly pretty surprised when Wizards of the Coast put out a response and a retraction literally within hours of this entire situation. According to IGN, the Baldur's Village DMC takedown was issued mistakenly. We are sorry about that. We are in the process of fixing that now, so fans and the Stardew community can continue to enjoy this great mod. Yeah. That was fast. I mean, seriously, I was reading about this whole controversy in the morning. I was rolling my eyes. Then, I go on with my day, I get my butt kicked in Marvel Rivals, and then suddenly I check my phone and there's a retraction from Wizards of the Coast on the IGN website. What the hell? But what does that statement actually mean? Does it mean that there's some grand conspiracy to destroy the modding community at the hands of Hasbro? It's possible, but I actually think they are telling the truth here for a few reasons, which is not a good thing, by the way, because while malice is bad, stupidity is still also really bad. I think the gaming community, and a lot of communities in general, have a problem with attributing everything to some kind of grand lie or conspiracy or deception, when the truth is that you're vastly overestimating the intelligence of most corporate bureaucracies. You'd be surprised how much stupidity goes on in the day-to-day, especially as these companies expand. These kind of mistakes are still really bad, though. Like, frankly, if there wasn't a bunch of noise made, if the CEO of Larian Studios didn't speak out about the problem, it is unlikely that anything would have been done about it. I mean, for God's sakes, we're on YouTube. False DMCA takedown notices happen all the time. For God's sakes, I got one on a personal private lo-fi playlist on one of my private YouTube channels. That is ridiculous. And you bet your ass that nobody's coming out to fix that. Now, of course, that's my private lo-fi playlist. I don't really care. But could you imagine if it was like a passion project that I actually really, really loved, that I wanted to share with people, like this mod, and then it gets taken down and I'm just not lucky enough to get some kind of big audience to support me? Yeah, that would suck. This is still absolutely a problem. As companies like this expand out, a lot of them stop paying attention. Like, I'm a big fan of Destiny, and Bungie, the developers of that game, did the same thing. They outsourced some of their work, and artists working on their Ace of Spades Nerf gun, some of their cutscenes and earlier expansions, they use fan art to create it without credit, without compensation. It was direct ripoffs. And that sucks. Now, Bungie immediately reached out, compensated those people accordingly, but still, the fact that they weren't paying attention enough to their artists to notice that they were stealing fan art, it is frustrating. And here, with Wizards of the Coast, it's way more frustrating. I mean, this isn't like an artist using some fan art as reference and then blatantly ripping it off. This is a DMCA takedown of a passion project. Why was that so easy to do by accident? It's irresponsible as a practice. It's even more ridiculous from a PR perspective. They just had the falling out of the whole sigil controversy. Do they really need another controversy on their hands just because they weren't paying attention to what their legal team is doing? No, absolutely not. It's just stupidity all the way down. But as we look towards the beef that Wizards of the Coast might have with Larian Studios, it's worth asking the question of where the idea of this beef even came from. I mean, yeah, it's stupidity all the way down, but there's still that central question at the beginning of the video. What even is the relationship between Larian Studios and Wizards of the Coast at this point? I mean, Larian developed probably the most successful thing to come out of D&D in the past couple decades. Like, Baldur's Gate 3 is stupidly acclaimed. And Larian went on to say that they would not be continuing. That led a lot of people to speculate that there was some kind of big falling out. And this whole spat where the CEO of Larian Studios takes a stance against Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro directly, it only built that rumor more. So, does it have validity? Alright. Let's rewind all the way back to March of 2023. That's when Larian Studios made the announcement that they would not be working on any sort of Baldur's Gate 3 DLC, expansions, or a sequel. And a lot of people freaked out over that. What did they say in their actual statement, though? We are a company of big ideas. We are not a company that's made to create DLCs or expansions. We tried that, actually, a few times. It failed every time. It's not our thing. Life is too short. Our ambitions are very large. A lot of people don't think Sven is telling the whole truth there, that there's some kind of grand deception. But like I said earlier, guys, don't credit things to deception unless there's evidence of a deception. The main thing that people point to is that Sven complained directly, again, that a lot of the people who approved the Baldur's Gate 3 partnership, that approved Larian working with this IP, they're no longer at Wizards of the Coast. They were laid off. And yeah, that could absolutely be a contributing factor to why they made this decision. I wouldn't want to work with a large unstable company too, but that is not the same as a falling out. That's not the same as the two companies having a big old fight over a contract. I mean, it was unbelievable how people stated things with full confidence. Stuff like Wizards of the Coast wanted to extort more money from Larian Studios, so they were forced to walk away and cancel an almost completed DLC project. And like, guys, those things didn't happen. Like, when we are critiquing these scumbag corpos, it's important still that we tell the truth. That we don't blatantly mislead people. That we don't give in to false narratives, rumors, and speculation. Like, this is something that frustrates me to no end. There are easy ways to criticize these companies. And I think I know why people are making things up. Because they're angry, they're upset. They want a sequel to Baldur's Gate 3. They want a BG4. They want an expansion where you fix Karlach's heart and everyone has a happy ending. They want those things, but Larian didn't want to make them. I think that that is the truth that we need to accept. Larian looked at this project and said, we are done. They were not forced into it. Yes, I do believe that the layoffs did contribute to this, especially given their earlier statements. But we don't have any proof that there was some kind of forceful fight or contractual spat. There's no evidence of that. The frank fact is, Larian Studios has always worked with original IPs. Baldur's Gate 3 is the exception, not the rule. They're not a company that works on licensed products. Hell, most of the video game industry would far prefer to create original IPs, not work with licensed properties from other companies. I mean, hell, throughout the 2000s and the early 2010s, licensed video games were famous for being bad, stuff that people didn't want to work on. So it shouldn't be surprising that a company like Larian Studios, with all this acclaim, would want to work on something original. Hell, on an early episode of this series, Monolith Productions was another company who was working on a licensed product who wanted to walk away from that. They wanted to work on something original, but the scumbags at Warner Brothers wouldn't let them. We should be happy for Larian that they get to work on an original IP. A lot of game developers prefer doing that. It sucks that we're not gonna get another Baldur's Gate 3 from them. But guys, come on. I guarantee we'll get a phenomenal game from Larian Studios. They made phenomenal games long before Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm confident they can do it again with or without the license. But what makes this all transcendentally funny is that this was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, all that controversy about Larian versus WotC, that all happened in 2023 when it was first announced that Larian would be walking away from D&D as an IP. So, on the 1-year anniversary of that whole scenario, Wizards of the Coast basically validated all those narratives by actually having a little bit of a standoff with Larian Studios CEO over a Stardew Valley mod of all things. It just shows that when you are a public face, you need to be careful of what you're doing. Usually I'm saying that kind of thing to dumbass YouTubers, but here I'm saying it to a big company who should have a PR firm who can handle this kind of thing and who knows better. It's insane how much goodwill they shed instantly with dumb moves like this. Whether it was a mistake or whether it genuinely was something that they wanted to do, it is, like I said before, dumb all the way down. And really, this video's thumbnail probably has Larian Studios versus Wizards of the Coast. I don't think there's any big beef, at least with the evidence I have right now. But in a sense, it does show the difference between those two companies. Larian Studios is a company with a finger on the pulse of the community. They see what their community likes and they don't try to fight against it. They're a company that can prioritize long-term profits off products that they work really hard to make good. They don't invest their money into just trying to make more money. They invest their money into making something worth buying, and then they make their cash afterwards. They are a company who gives a shit. And there's a lot of people at Wizards of the Coast who give a shit. Game designers and artists who are damn good at their job. It's just there are too many people at Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro who don't give a shit, who aren't paying attention, who either do things out of malice or stupidity that make dumb decisions. Dumb decisions like this one. Oh boy. But hey, if you want something positive to come out of this story, the dudes at comicbook.com have something to jerk themselves off to for the next couple weeks. So yeah, good for them. Real American patriots. In any case, if you guys enjoyed, then you might enjoy the last time we talked about Wizards of the Coast foolishness with the whole Sigil VTT debacle. It's linked in the cards. But before you go, please leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own suggestions or thoughts, you can go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment beef to let me know at the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. We will see you all next time. Farewell. Hey.